Onward with Great Granddad's Rocking Chair, Episode 4. And welcome back. Got the new maple dowel, nice and hard all the way through. I cut off the two 6-inch pieces I need. I've actually turned them to the 1 5/8 diameter that I want to work with. And I cut off the bottom of the legs of the chair as a further reference. And here's how I did that. It's really kind of simple, actually. So this part and this part here are the same diameter. So that gives me a place to square off a cut. And the way to do that is I made up a little jig, of course. 2 pieces of plywood made into a little corner, 90 degrees, trimmed off flush with the chop saw. And what I do is I'll clamp this to the leg, like so. Yep, I'll move this. There you go. Just a little loose. And that way, since the pads on this are rubber, I can make an adjustment. And I have a collection of these Japanese pull saws, and I'll be using my dozoki to cut it because I want the thinnest kerf I can possibly get. So I go over here. This squared corners, by the way, is to guide the saw. So I'm going to hold it up against that. Now it's got to come in a little bit because it's not on right where I want it. Okay. That's about right. So what that is cutting off at the bottom of the leg here. I'm not going to go all the way through with the jig on there because I don't want to break things and have things fall off, go funny. So I can hold it up against my piece, my little jig, and start cutting. Now I'm not putting any pressure on the saw. I'm letting the saw do all the work. Got to hold that on there better. There we go. So because of the back of the saw, I can only go so far. That's okay, because I can remove the jig now, and I can gently finish the cut with my hands, because the cut in the wood now will guide the saw blade. Voila. Nice square cut, just right where I want it. I'll make another jig to go on here to allow me to drill a straight 3/8 inch hole in the bottom of the leg here, because the pin is going to be 3/8 of an inch. When I turn the legs, I'll do that in the lathe with a chuck. But that's how I cut off, and actually I can take that to the lathe and use it for further reference. Simple. Major production malfunction. So I brought out, I don't know if I mentioned it somewhere in the video, but I brought out one of my little action cams, the Drift Ghost X camera. I have 3 of those I use for shooting aviation videos. And I mounted it up here by the light so we could take video of me turning the pieces out. And that's great, except you gotta turn the camera on. Sorry. So while I'm really engrossed in turning these and doing a little bit of dialogue, this was basically going to be all time lapse. I neglected to look over here much, and when I turned around, I noticed that the camera battery had died, and also the monitor battery had died. So yeah, major screw up. But anyhow, that's water under the bridge. Let's go on to the next step, which is to cut off the ends of the turnings here and here. Flatten those out as best I can. This end will get chucked on the lathe with a 3-jaw chuck, and then I'll use the drill chuck for the tailstock and a brad point bit to drill the 3/8 hole for the pin that's going to hold these together. We'll call it a loose tenon joint, dowel, whatever. I'll make sure I get this centered really good for that. And the brad point helps because once you find the center and everything's cool, you can then just put the brad in there, and it's going to hold the piece pretty much where you want it. So let's go on to the next step and cut these apart and drill holes. Sorry about the screw up. Now that I have the holes drilled in the new leg bottoms, I need to drill a corresponding hole in the bottom of the existing leg. And I think the way I'm going to do that, well, this is the way I'm going to do it. I've squared up a nice block of poplar. We've used this for drilling jigs before, this kind of procedure. I made sure it was square with marking the center. I'm going to drill in with a 1 1/4 inch Forstner bit until it just fits snugly around the leg. So that way I'm assured it's centered. I'm thinking of using the painting tape and CA glue technique to hold it in place. I can't see any other way of really doing it. So anyway, let's go ahead and drill some holes. It'll be back and forth from the drill press because I got to drill a little bit, test it, drill a little bit, test it. Get started. Back and forth. What I found was that this leg in the back is smaller in diameter than this leg here in the front. No, so the back is bigger than the one in the front. Let's check this one here, see if it's the same. Yeah. Yeah, so although it fits beautifully on the front leg here, the hole's too deep for it to get flush with the surface of the leg here and have the cup hold it in place. So I can do this one, the front leg, then I have to shave some material off of the top of this to get to this one here. Fun and games. So let's at least drill this hole. Now you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So this cup fits snugly around this leg, and this bottoms out on here. Concentric holes drilled, so if I hold that up like that, it gives me a really centered hole, place to drill the 3/8 hole. Nice jig. But of course now holding it in place, I could do it by hand, but that would be challenging to say the least. So let me see about doing the CA glue trick. I think you know this. Masking tape here, a little bit of CA glue, plaps it in place, and the tape is what separates. You don't have to worry about this being stuck to the wood with glue forever. So let's get on that. Masking tape. So I'm going to put a couple of drops of CA glue. I'm using the 2P10, whatever it is that everybody seems to like. Oops, it's clogged up. There we go. Drop there, and I'll spray the accelerant on the leg. And hold it. Lost my little, about a whole package of these from Amazon. I'm going to let that sit for a bit. Handy drill. Got it on low speed, 3/8 bit, block in place, crossing the fingers. Okay, got it started. So now go up to higher speed. Well, that didn't work. That didn't work at all. So, we'll have to try something else. Attempt number 47. So I put some wings on it, clamped it up here on the leg, tapped it pretty hard to make sure it's seated at the bottom, made sure the bottom of the leg was flat and perpendicular. So let's drill the hole now. Keep in mind we're going into end grain here. So let's take this off. Got a bit of loopies there. I'm going to have to adjust it a little bit. But anyhow, the hole is drilled. Now I can pin this up. Now, the holes are drilled. Get the camera up, dude. Okay. The holes are drilled to 3/8. The dowels you buy from the local big box store or whatever are not. They're random. I've got a drive block where I can turn them down to jam them down to the right size. So let me get some of those done and we'll play a little bit with this. So I punched them so they fit snugly in this. It's a little loose in here, but that's because the drill bit drifted a little bit. Now this is going to be fastened with epoxy and wood flour to take up some of the slack, but that's what it's going to look like when it's done. Close up. So here you go. That's the way it's going to fit. I'll be using epoxy to, nice thickened epoxy, and I'll make sure everything's perfectly aligned. And I'll use the slow cure so I can get it correct. But there's the way the new leg bottom is going to fit on the old leg. The other thing I need to do, of course, is cut the slots in here for the runners, and I believe that's going to be probably on the table saw with my dado head. So let's do that. Different day, different shirt. I think I've got to figure out what I want to do to cut the slots in the feet. It looks a little precarious, but I'm going to take it slowly, a little bit at a time. I'm getting ready to put the dado stack into the table saw, and let me bring this up close to the camera. What I have here is 2 pieces of plywood, a stop block in the back here, the 2 pieces I need to cut here, and the clamps are just on this side of this one and this side of this one, so it's capturing it with kind of bent plywood, so it's very tight. Now, what I want to do with this is run it up against my sacrificial fence. Very carefully, like so, about maybe an 3/16 to a 1/4 inch at a time, 3/8, 3/16 to a 1/4 inch up on each pass. I only need to go 7/8 of an inch. The trick is make sure it's all nice and centered. But other than that, it's just take your time, work slowly, don't rush it, and keep your fingers out of the way. So let me set up the dado stack and we'll go from there. So I'm ready to make these cuts to put the slot in for the runners, or excuse me, for the rockers. I added a shelf here to give me a little stability in this direction to the left of the blade. I marked the center of the dado head on one of the center chipper teeths with an ink pen, and I marked the center of my workpiece. So I lined those up and it's on center. I'm going to start at about a 1/4 inch cut. This is going to take a while, so I'll do a couple of passes and then we'll go to the time lapse. Ear protection. I'd say that was a success. I've got nice, clean dados for the rockers, for the chair. So let's get this out of the jig and have a better look. There you go. See? Now when I glue these onto the chair, I'm going to use the new new rockers as an alignment tool to make sure they line up correctly when I glue them onto the existing chair's legs. And that way we know that the rocker is going to fit first time without an issue when I finally assemble the entire chair. So let's end this video here. The next video is going to be planing the maple down to 1/2 inch thickness, and then getting the rockers out of that piece of wood and shaping them correctly and making them fit the way I should. Right shape, right size, all that good stuff. So until next time, make great things out of wood and create some interesting jigs and fixtures for your table saw.